Hey everyone, and welcome to the Entrepreneur PodGuide, created to share the collective wisdom of everyday entrepreneurs who are bringing their visions to life, the ones in the arena. We've all read the same billionaire books, but what about the wisdom from the entrepreneur next door? The ones building, learning, failing forward, and figuring it out one step at a time. I'm your host, Britt Rodriguez, and every episode we're bringing you honest conversations, fresh insights, and lessons from entrepreneurs just like you. This is your place to learn, grow, and get inspired by your fellow business owners who are actually out there building businesses today, not just dreaming about them. So let's get started.
So when we're talking about the spark, we're not talking about an intellectual idea. We're talking about something that's visceral. It's felt.
Today we are talking about the spark. You know, the spark, the thing that lights us up because we want to see it made real out there in the world. It's the thing that makes us start our own companies, that makes us actually take action and build something. And today we are talking about that with our very special guest, Miriam Jones. She knows that spark very well, and she's learned what it takes to stay true to that spark through all the twists and turns of the entrepreneurial journey. We talk about the seasons of business, the fun and meaningful work she's building right now with OpenCircle and her newest venture, Wayfinders, and how reconnecting with nature can bring us back to clarity and creativity when we need it most. This one's inspiring, it's grounded, and it's full of wisdom. So let's jump right in. Miriam, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. And we started before we started. So here we go.
For everyone listening, Miriam is just a joy to talk to, and I've been very excited to have this podcast. So Miriam, I know about you, but tell everybody else what you are up to. Tell us about OpenCircle and about this new exciting venture for you, Wayfinders.
I think I want to start actually where our first conversation started, because I know that the focus of this is entrepreneurship. And so when we first talked, I told the story of where my entrepreneurship journey started. Well,
I love this story.
Like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So, but when I actually took on an understanding that that's what I was. So from an early age, I would be like doing things, starting things, initiating things. And then I got out of college and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what career path I should go on. And my dad was like, you need to understand this because yes, you do need to work. I'd worked out that I didn't want to stay in the college system and be an academic. So I went to see a career advisor, and basically the career advisor turned around to me and said, I think maybe you should consider working for yourself. I'm not sure how good you'll be at working for others.
I love that she knew it. From the That's how clear it was from you.
It was really, really clear. And so I think when I came to the point of self-defining myself as, okay, yes, I am someone who initiates things. And as an entrepreneur, I have had a lifetime of initiating things. And, you know, it's kind of, I have a pioneering spirit where I don't like to let things be as they are. I'm like, okay, that's not right. I'm going to do something about that. And
you're not complaining. You're going to take action.
I've done heaps of complaining. I'd like to say I haven't, but there's something in me that says, I on my 5th grade project, at the bottom of each page, it was like 100 pages long. It was the first big project I did. I wrote on the bottom of each page, nothing is impossible. So I think part of me has that spirit of, okay, that's impossible or that can't happen. I'm like, really? Let's see about that.
Let's test it. I'm going to try
that. I'm going to try. So yeah, that's been my relentless pursuit of starting and initiating things. I find as an entrepreneur, I have initiated a lot of projects and companies, and then they get to the point where they're kind of rolling and I'm like, what's next?
And I'm bored now. Can I do something else?
It's not even boredom. I actually, in my most commercially successful venture, it got to the point where, you know, we'd gone from nothing to, you know, a $20 million company and 50 employees. As a founder, I was like still pushing the edges. And I actually at that stage found that my character or my spirit of pushing the edges was actually destructive to the company.
Okay.
It's like, no, don't push any more edges. We actually just need to stabilize.
Like, we're rocking. We're good.
Yeah. So I kind of got ousted. No, I didn't get ousted. I sold it to other people who wanted to just keep it stable.
Yeah, because you were ready to do something else and
Yeah,
try different things.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is that OpenCircle, which started about 10 years ago now, and I started it with my co-founder, Adam Rumack, came out of really a exploration in myself, in my life, a personal exploration of a, of changing the foundation and the paradigm that in which I viewed life. And that sounds a little bit intellectual when I say it. What it really involved is a lot of time kind of surrendering to not understanding and surrendering things that I had built up in my life. Some people call it a midlife crisis, and undoing things. So it involved actually a lot of death, actual death. I had a different people around me die, and the death of that company that I built up in selling it, the death of my marriage and my family structure, and then the death of my identity. And that took a long period of time. And the starting of OpenCircle facilitated that. OpenCircle was born to assist communities, organizations, and individuals in the territory of transitions. What is it for us to individually go through life's transitions? What is it for us in our organizations to transition, to really transition? And what is it, as we are seeing now on a wider basis, for a society or a culture to transition? And what makes that healthy and vibrant and life-giving, and what makes it toxic and hard and driving us back into resistance to what is actually inevitably going to happen anyway. So that's how OpenCircle was born. In it was my personal journey. First and foremost, in its first 4 years, we went around the world. We used my organizational knowledge and my co-founder Adam Rumack's organizational experience to experiment in different communities, in different networks and different organizations, what it was to combine this, developmental phase of us individually changing, but how does that integrate with the groups that we're a part of? One of the foundational questions that we were exploring was written in an essay that Jacob Needleman wrote at the beginning of the 21st century. He was a philosopher and he was commissioned to look at the 20th century and look at the transition into the 21st century and what we were facing. One of the beliefs or principles that he was exploring was that in the 21st century, the problems that we are facing and that we are going to face are so complex that no individual can solve them. So the hero model that had been really prevalent in the 20th century of people like Gandhi or, JFK, or these figures that we had kind of put on pedestals as heroes that were going to kind of drive change in our society, that was no longer going to work in the 21st century. That we were going to have to find ways of recognizing how we work together across the world to solve the complexity of problems that we face. And one of the explorations of that is, how do we develop the collective wisdom that we need in order to do that? And at the foundation of that, which is a driving principle of OpenCircle, is the knowledge of our interdependence. And where we see that knowledge very, very clearly is in the natural world. When we go into the natural world, we cannot ignore that we're in a world where change and transition is part of the very fabric of our day-to-day lives. The sun rises, it goes to the middle of the day, and it sets. We go through seasons, even when they change. We go through different seasons and the world around us changes. We go through seasons of our life. We go through seasons in organizations and in communities. And at the moment, and they're natural, they're part of the fabric of life. And at the moment, we're going through a season of transition. Our culture and our society is moving. And within that, OpenCircle has explored that and facilitated that and guided that. We've deepened our knowledge of what is useful in those transitions. And we've gathered and synthesized things from Western, Eastern, from wisdom traditions, from land-based cultures to look at the sort of modalities that we can learn. And as leaders and as entrepreneurs, to engage in different practices that help us join together with others across divisions in our organization, across divisions amongst in our fields, and across divisions in our culture, in our society, so that we can each play our place and we can learn and listen from each other. And that's why I love what you're doing, because what you're doing is you're interviewing grassroots entrepreneurs, not the heroes who have kind of like conquered the earth, but
Mm.
you're investigating at the grassroots what people are doing and how we can learn from each other and how we can all see ourselves as part of a bigger movement
Yeah.
towards tackling some of the things that we're experiencing on a day-to-day in our lives.
Yeah.
That's what OpenCircle was born
Yeah.
to do. And yeah.
I've got which there's so many. I have a million questions from that. I do. Let's touch on a nature one because you just talked about nature and how important it is to Open Circle. It's also very important to Wayfinders, which we'll talk about too. And I think when we are in our businesses, so much is tech based, right? We are like constantly online, except for some of those few lucky businesses that still are very much out and about and moving outside every day. But a lot of us are online. I'm not. I personally don't think as much about like bringing nature into my life more. And I think that that's like such a great thing. One of the things when I was talking to you, I was like, oh man, yeah, like I just got a thought of me sitting at the beach and how I get so much clarity when I'm there. And so I have a question for you about nature and entrepreneurs, right? So lots of us, lots of times busy, like head down, unless we're just naturally like nature people that love to hike and love to camp. What are some recommendations you have for entrepreneurs, especially those that are like in the thick of it, on how to like basically the importance of nature and still taking time to go be in nature, and what that can do for them as especially as an entrepreneur because it's so powerful.
Yeah.
And yeah, what do you have to say for people, for entrepreneurs in nature?
So first of all, at its root, it's a paradigm shift in the way as entrepreneurs that we are using the things around us. And here we're talking about technology. We tend to, as humans, have an over extended emphasis on our minds. What this does, it means that we contextualize or we put things or want to put things in boxes, in compartments. So the first thing about nature is to recognize that we are nature. It's not separate. It's not like a compartment. Okay, I'm going to go over here and be in nature, and then I'm going to come back and not be in nature. In fact, as I sit in this office, nature is all around me. I have wood, I have components which are all integrating. In this technology, we have different particles of energy. So
Mm.
it's all part of nature. So when I go out into nature, and the reason we take people out into nature is really less about getting away from this, but as a reminder of that paradigm shift, that actually everything, it goes back to everything is interdependent and interconnected. So we are actually challenging us as entrepreneurs to remember that we are part of an interdependent, interconnected network. And nature is also really good at reminding us again about that in the idea I was talking about the seasons. So
Mm.
as entrepreneurs, as the mindset of we are nature, of what I am doing is part of nature, it's also remembering that it has seasons. So as you begin a project as an entrepreneur, you might even say it's in the birth phase. And the birth phase is like spring. Things are blooming up and we're opening lots of doors. And then it goes into, the summer, the midday, and we're starting to realize we need to play and experiment with what we've found. And then it kind of goes into, dusk or the fall. And as an entrepreneur, we can recognize that season because we're no longer kind of like opening lots of doors. We're no longer kind of like we've done some playing and experimenting. And now we're in the season of like, what is our identity? Asking those deeper questions. how do I define this? In fact, how do I actually, what box do I want to put around this so I can socialize it so it makes sense to other people? And then it kind of goes through this process. It's a bit like adolescence, at adolescence, where you're kind of like, you're actually less being open to the outside world and you kind of go into who am I? What does that mean? Where do I belong? All of those questions.
Yeah.
We're doing that with our businesses. And then we kind of move through this period of kind of taking it out and finding out that we get rejected. There are no and there are yeses. And we have all these emotions around that of like, is it worthwhile? Am I good? Like, is it on the right track? We have lots of people coming in and telling us what we should do and shouldn't do, just like a teenager, and kind of working out a lot of what happens in that phase of business, which people recognize, is having to work out what your yeses and nos are. And people will recognize that because suddenly you're going, oh, wow, there are a lot of opportunities, but which one is actually the right one for me?
Yeah.
Then there's this phase where you kind of start to do that, and you might even say no to a few things that people are like, "Are you crazy? That's such a great opportunity." But your gut says no. And when people don't do that at that stage, it often takes them on the wrong track and they have to re-pedal and go back again. And so then you're going to really go into the phase of feeling like what you're doing is really in service of your community. That doesn't sound like going out and camping. It's seeing your business as an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so the best place to learn about the ecosystem is actually, yes, when you were thinking about the beach and realizing you had clarity, yes. And sort of even taking that time and reflecting more by looking at what's going on around you and seeing how the natural world works and
Mm.
taking inspiration from that. And sometimes, like, we'll often take people out into nature and go, take a question and go out and walk in nature with that question and just observe what's going on around you. And it's so interesting that when people do that, this knowledge happens. It's like, "Oh, I felt this," or "This bird went across my trail and da 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 da." And these answers come, these unexpected answers come, and this creativity comes where we recognize that our creativity is in partnership with the world around us.
I
Um,
love that.
and so that's the kind of way that we use nature as an inspiration. And I think it's natural and intrinsic for us as human beings. And more of the work is letting go of unlearning some
Mhm.
of the structures and things that we've been told that are getting in the way of us thinking as entrepreneurs, thinking about things in new ways and get inspiration in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's for me a lot when I go out into nature, it is that unlearning, right? And like because I think, every day we get like inundated with all kinds of information and yeah, you should do this, you should be doing that. You should, and so it's such a nice break sometimes to just go out and be kind of just alone with your thoughts, which doesn't happen often. We are such a distracted group of people. And it's just too easy to be distracted these days. But like going out sometimes, I think, and then just being like, wait a minute. Like it for me, it's just very grounding and it helps me like unlearning. That word you said is like, I think that's so like important. And that happens to me when I'm able to like go back and kind of almost ground myself a little bit.
Yeah, and I almost want to challenge. I know you didn't quite mean it like this, but I almost want to challenge the word break because because
Yeah.
sometimes people can go, "Oh, it's a break." Like that's the work, and now I'm going to get and to actually see it as one of the tools that you have in your toolkit, and
Mm.
that
Yeah.
that's the paradigm shift I'm kind of advocating for,
Yeah.
because working in a lot of the work I've done and we've done at OpenCircle is we come into a lot of complex messes, basically. Often people come to us when they're really stuck or they just know that they're not finding the answers that they need. And the hardest thing to do, particularly when the stakes are high, which is often the case in transitions, is the hardest thing for people to do because nervous systems are elevated is to pause. And it's
Yep.
often the thing that's most needed. And
Mhm.
so to kind of know that in your journey as an entrepreneur, when it feels most like you can't take a pause, that often that's a signal for when you need to most.
That's good. And that is not what yeah, you kinda wanna more work up into a frenzy. I know
Yep.
exactly that feeling you're talking about. That's a great tip. So when you feel that next time, when I feel the, "Oh, frenzy, 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 frenzy," I'm gonna just, like, flip it and be like, "Let me take a pause."
And take that to a team of people. When you see your team of people running around, like they're running and running, 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 but you can see that it's just all industry, but it's not really going anywhere.
Yeah.
Those moments. Again, the idea of the pause is a tool that you have from the busyness to being able to kind of climb up the mountain and be able to look from a bird's eye view at the ecosystem. Look at what you're doing, look at the wider field, and sometimes it can be just a moment. It can be
Mhm.
like a stop, a pause, 10 minutes. In when we're working with organizations and with entrepreneurs, it can look like stopping in a meeting for 5 minutes to let people pause and to take in and process
Mm.
what has been done, rather than or alongside driving an agenda. So
Yeah.
often when we're in those situations, our response is to drive an agenda. Even if we don't actually believe that agenda is going to work, we often feel more like our nervous system say, well, I've just got to do something about it
Yeah.
because if I don't do something about it, it's going to happen.
It's
So
like, this is just gonna feel worse and get
it's going
crazy.
to that's
Yeah.
the key. It's going to feel worse.
Mm.
So you're responding to a nervous system reaction in rather than actually taking a pause to let that nervous system, whether it's individual or collective, kind of dissipate. And
Mm.
that's when actually going out into nature really helps because it's a natural kind of like dissipation of that.
Yeah.
Being able to see and to feel what the movement is and where it's actually where the best place is to go next.
Today's episode is generously brought to you by OpenCircle and Wayfinders. Wayfinders is the new community movement created by our awesome guest today, Miriam Jones. Wayfinders helps young adults and local leaders navigate life's transitions together, blending mentorship, nurture, and purpose. You can learn more, volunteer, or donate to their exciting new fundraisers by checking out weareopencircle.org today. That's weareopencircle.org. You talk about a spark for an entrepreneur. This bit of passion, this thing that kind of lights you up at the beginning. Um, and I want to hear for sure what that was for you, especially with your new venture with Wayfinders, because you've had that spark again, which is lovely. And we probably have those multiple times as an entrepreneur. But you talk about a spark, and then we talk about alignment because as that spark either grows or is like quieted sometimes the entrepreneur journey can sometimes take us away from that and take us basically out of alignment with that initial spark. How entrepreneurs can tell if they have gotten out of alignment with that spark from your own experience or even what you've just learned from other people you've been coaching.
Well, I'm going to start with a question.
All right.
When do you or how do you feel that spark for yourself? Like, when do you
Great
know you're
question.
in it? Like in your in it currently in what you're doing?
So for me, that the spark is it to me feels like good energy, and would describe it as like excitement, passion. It's all those good feelings, happy, hopeful, peaceful. Like for me, inspiration probably is one of like the stronger words for me. Um, and and then it comes out, I believe, in what I would call flow. So I like the work is almost prolific, like it just flows out. It's one of those, I think Jen Sincero describes it as it's the stuff you you're working on so long that you have to punch your leg to wake it back up because you just realized you've been working on it so long and you don't even know what time it is or what day it is. And I love that feeling. So for me, I feel very in flow that way. And it can also be the thing that gets you through, for me, boredom. I know that's not a thing for you, but for me, it's like shiny object syndrome. I can get a little bored with something, but if that spark is bright enough, if I'm aligned, I can get through those quieter, more boring or especially challenging seasons. And like that, yeah, that can get me through there too. But I do think I struggle, as I talked about with you before, of listening to intuition sometimes and more following like what people say you should be doing in business or hey, this worked for so many people, this is what you need to be doing. Like, oh, your sales aren't where they need to be, you need to do this. And so it's like well, I don't really love that, but I guess I'm going to do it because this expert has told me to.
Well, I hear a few things in that. So when we're talking about the spark, we're not talking about an intellectual idea. We're talking about something that's visceral. It's
Mhm.
felt. Like
Felt.
all of the, like you talked about emotions, you talked about feelings in your body, you talked about your relationship with time. That's something that's really important as an entrepreneur to remember in yourself and in others, to recognize that that spark and what sometimes we call the animating spirit, like it's giving life. It's
Mm,
giving life. And so really importantly, and you remember I talked before about how we become overemphasis is on the mind, and
mm,
particularly when we're on computers. So
yep.
really importantly, it's something which brings into balance your bodily feeling, the function of your mind. And I would almost say after years of observing it in myself and others, it's almost like rather than being led by your mind, you're being led by that inspiration and your mind follows. And so I think that's a slightly different thing of like your mind going, I have to do this, and you're like dragging your body along. So
Yeah.
I think that's important in terms of like the spark is the leader. So
Mm,
if you know that, then what you're looking for when you're looking for the animating spirit in yourself or in groups is you're looking for that energy and you're looking to cultivate that. Uh, And so you're cultivating that because you know it's going to give a bigger momentum and flow. So, like that could apply to a client meeting, could apply to when you put something out there, it could apply to when you're talking, but you recognize where that there's a light, where the light kind of comes on for people. So
yeah.
that's an orientation for what you're observing and looking for, and that becomes a leader. It becomes a place then for your mind to follow. So that's like part of it. And in the alignment piece, what I heard you talking about was the things that stop you doing that is, or obstructions have a little, in what you said, have something to do with your relationship with authority and
Mm,
power. So the
yeah.
power stuff becomes really interesting because what you mentioned was the power of knowledge or the power of someone who knows, and that would be authority. In
Mm,
relationship, it's worthwhile as an entrepreneur to look at your relationship with authority. And often that will come at points where you feel out of your depth. And as an entrepreneur, again, let's just take that one example of you working with an expert. An expert comes and says your sales, analyzes your sales. Let's put those two things in relationship. In those two things, let's say that expert is like your mind in the example that we gave, and you are like that body, soul. And so what you gave is in that example is the expert, you were going, well, I have to let the mind lead.
yeah.
And so what it does is said, okay, if I'm saying that the spark is leading, then actually what I'm feeling in my body, my intuition is the thing that needs to lead. So I need to give this expert who has more knowledge than me, yes, but I need to lead them. I need to get
Mm,
them to understand the spark and so that they can solve that problem with their expertise. And so that becomes a different, in an organizational sense, as an entrepreneur that you are closest to the spark. And
mm.
so it is your job to convey that spark and to communicate that spark to the other experts that you're working with. As your
Ooh, good.
organization grows, you need to work with experts who have in a certain field, but you need to lead them. You
That
need
is
to
so
find
good.
ways of actually inspiring them. And if you at that point are feeling overwhelmed, you need to understand that overwhelm is your work to do. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and disempowered in your own idea or organization, You need to go away and do that work on yourself because
Yeah.
you're not turning up as the leader you need to be in that organization to let that expert know, wow, I really need that knowledge because I don't have it. I don't know
Mm.
anything about how sales technology works or how that system is going to be put into place. But what I do know is this is the principle of the idea, and this is the spark, and this is what it's doing. So take and go work, integrate that into the problem that you're solving.
That's so good. And I love your term of animated spirit for the spark. And like that's like the thing to make sure that that's the leader. Like it's not that the mind we quiet and throw away. It just needs to be following that leader. And that's such a good like way to explain that. And so I have a question about your spark because you had a new spark recently, and I love it. And so tell me when you felt your spark, and then like true to Miriam form, you didn't just feel it and go, "I'll do that another time." You're like, "No, I'm gonna follow the spark. The spark's gonna lead." And now you've got something pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Think I want to say that in my journey, and I think in many others, when you've worked out that you're out of alignment, the journey towards coming back into alignment is not easy. And the other thing I want to say is it means taking risks. So there's a huge risk in you saying to the expert, yes, great information, but I'm going to call on the authority of my intuition, even though I don't know where it's going. You know what I mean? Like that's a massive risk.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about my organization, OpenCircle, which started with this personal journey and started with all these experiments, and where we got involved in an accelerator during COVID and we ramped up to come up with a solution for organizations to embed this ecosystem model into their organizations. And we were like a kind of a step ahead of it becoming like the ecosystem model becoming a general kind of a word in the organizational development field. And we kind of like went in the accelerator and we do it. But the problem was within that, I personally was constantly kind of feeling this overwhelm. And instead of listening to it and stepping back and pausing, I pushed. I
Mm.
went, okay, I'm just going to push through that. I'm just going to ignore it. This is what you've got to do in an accelerator. I'm just going to ignore the warning systems in my body. They weren't in my mind because my mind is solving all the problems they were giving me. My
Right.
body was going, this,
Mhm.
you know. So
The
that's
feelings.
the reason I said that before is because I, of course, have been through it myself.
Yeah.
And then to come, and then this constant, like me listening to the ecosystem is me listening to what's outside of the idea of open circle, but actually opening to how I am responding to the world at large. And so my response as I'm doing open circle and we're busy consulting to organizations, I am having a response as a mother of teenagers and as a single parent and seeing after COVID the way our schools in my local district were collapsing,
Mm.
seeing the way that people were arguing about different things, seeing the way that ideological debates were being carried out, and hearing my teenagers and kind of interact with these ideas, let's just say, and recognizing, wow, I think there is something that I can do
Mm.
in this, the complexity of this issue. And more, I was feeling drawn to assisting young adults. And while I was doing that, we started a nonprofit a couple years ago, and we were doing a lot of work with veterans and first responders and social workers who were in the complexity of their own transitions in burnout, working with a field with very high suicide rates,
Mm.
very high mental health issues. And as we were doing that, and as they were coming through their own journeys, I was seeing this kind of like strength in them, particularly in the veterans and first responders, this kind of warrior spirit, and also this wisdom of service and a kind of a can do attitude that, not regardless, integrating the trauma that I have been through, I am still turning up I'm turning up through it and in it to serve in my community. And
Wow.
as I was experiencing that and also experiencing kind of what I was seeing in the stats around in my experience, but also statistically, like the skyrocketing mental health, skyrocketing addiction,
Mm.
skyrocketing suicides, and a disload from going almost like a moral injury of like, yeah, you've given us this world. Thanks a lot. Great, great, good one. Great, good one, guys.
Thanks a
Destroyed.
lot. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. No real career path. Yeah, technology. Yeah, disrupting everything. Haven't
Oh,
really like changed the school systems to help us out. Now we've got AI and you're actually marking us down when we worked really hard in an assignment saying that AI wrote it after I've rewritten it 10 times. Now I've got to dumb myself down because we haven't worked out a way to integrate AI into our school
oh,
systems. Like literally that's seeing the teenagers doing and like doing this kind of like circling around the lack of capacity we've had in like moving alongside. And it's understandable. Institutions take a long time to change. But hey, we need to do something about it. So out of that was born Wayfinders, which isn't a program for young adults. While it's focused on supporting and helping young adults carve their way through this, it's a community program. It's
mm.
recognizing that as a community, we are all going through change.
Yeah.
So there's this reciprocity. There's a reciprocity in older people feeling the energy of youth. And there's a turnaround when you're supporting young people's ideas that they feel recognized, that
Mm.
they feel seen, that they start feeling motivated, that they're not trying to fit into a collapsing system that doesn't work, but that you're inviting them in to say, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
gosh, I feel emotional as I say this. Yeah, this is a mess.
This is a mess.
But you've got the skills and capacity to change it. And
Yeah.
we're gonna walk alongside you in this, but we need your
Mm.
energy in this. And we're not just giving you permission in this, but we're gonna put money and resources behind it, and we're gonna use our wisdom to guide you. And so just that is also supporting adults to be in that sort of mentor, to not
Mm.
in our panic and overwhelm kind of shut our young people down and try and control them, but
Yeah.
actually receive that energy and actually, you know, communicate the wisdom of our journeys to say, hey, we've tried. It is a mess. And
Yeah.
this is what I'm doing in my life. And this is how I've tried to step through it. As a parent, I say to my kids, yeah, it is a mess.
Mm.
I'm a single parent. I haven't got the resources. But this is what I'm doing. And hey, I'm going to walk with you in this. And I'm going to be beside you and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And then like we put our elders in these containers of like, let's just shove them over there,
Yeah.
and we're missing out. For
Mm.
me, it's like this thing of we can't, when, in Australia, we came into Australia and we killed most of the Indigenous population in Australia. And, now after we've done the harm and now after we're now kind of like salvaging the way that we have decimated their culture, we're actually recognizing, whoa, we missed out because there is
Right.
wisdom in the way that they have worked with the land. There's
Yes.
hard-won wisdom in their relationship with the land. And it is the same with the elders that we
Mm.
have. So, many people say our elders aren't acting like elders. Well, that's because we are, as a community, aren't supporting them in listening to the wisdom of their experiences. So,
Mm.
Wayfinders is a community program. We're tackling the problem of scaling by not doing a rinse and repeat of a program, but rather seeding this in different communities across the US. So we are next year seeding it in Alaska, Minnesota, and California.
Mm.
And through that, we are finding ways that we as an organization can invite people in, can help people connect and join the dots where perhaps there have been walls in the past, to provide some sort of support in developing these skills of mentoring and to be able to, what we hope is seed relationships and cross relationships across generations, across disciplines, across different institutions that are self-sustaining. And the scale is more in us building up structures and being able to kind of like impart them in different places.
Mm.
And we're inviting people to be waypoints on this journey. We have a fundraising campaign coming up, which is asking you to donate the equivalent of 1 hour of your wage a month to help us seed this in communities. But being a waypoint isn't just about the money. It's being a part of a community of inspiration and hope. We're inviting people to come into the different communities. We're inviting people to with us connect dots in their own communities and to join in the journey. Our hope is OpenCircle was born to scale to scale in a way that deepens relationships that are already there,
Mm.
and to scale by building the capacities of individuals, communities, and organizations to really recognize and make the most of this transition that we're in. Yeah, really, the invitation is open,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited because for me, it represents a kind of change of focus from working solely in organizations to really my focus being in communities. And
Mm.
for me, this is part of using anything that I have to kind of seed this in the world so that, in the end, it's not for me about building a huge empire. In
Mm.
the end, for me, it is born in like last week, going to Minnesota and talking to local colleges and talking to funders and talking to veterans and first responders and taking some young adults out on the lake and seeing their joy. And, it's really in making time for those relationships. And really in the past, why it feels so different to me is in the past, I'd go into a client meeting and it was really pushing my agenda. It's like, I want to push my agenda. I want to sell you this product. And that's not a bad thing.
Mm.
That's not a bad thing, but that's the shift in the work that I'm doing. And it's to work alongside the products that people are offering. But for me, this is not a product. This is about us having that animating spirit in our communities.
Guys, AI is moving fast, like blink and it's different kind of fast. And if you've been thinking, I know I should be using this in my business, I just have no idea where to start or what to do, I've got two pieces of good news for you. One, you are not alone. And two, that is what my business, Archer AI, was created to do. I talk with you, I sit down, I learn about your business, figure out where AI can save you time or make you more money, and then I build it for you. It's custom, simple, and done so that you can stay focused on what you do best. Grab a call at archerai.org and let's get you ahead of the curve. And I'd love to touch on two things. So one, on the generational wisdom you touched on, which I think is incredible, and then on your fundraising. So first of all, the generational wisdom I think is fascinating that you just mentioned. So we've been talking a lot about collective wisdom, which is such a beautiful thing. And even as entrepreneurs, like we can learn from older entrepreneurs, from younger inspiring entrepreneurs. Like that, I think that generational wisdom is something we do so often, like close out and sideline. And I love that that's something you're highlighting. And it reminded me, so recently Amy Poehler has children. It's funny because there's always the jokes, like everybody loves to just talk terribly about that generation. Oh, they can't do this. Oh, they just do that. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And it's so funny because even as she has like used them in with comedy, she's like, they are my favorite people. They have so much to teach us. Like, don't like cut down this group. They're an
Like
incredible group.
I'll give you the example of social media. The general thing is like, oh my God, social media, and now the way the kids are using it. And there's a kind of like shame in what have we done to
Yeah.
introduce this, and now we need to regulate it. I'm not going against the regulation. Yeah. Fair enough. Let's regulate it.
Yeah.
But what it does is the message it sends to teenagers, at least from my experience of it, is like, you're a problem to be fixed.
Right. Right.
Right.
Oh, great. Look what you brought on the scene.
And
Yeah.
and it negates, like, I look at my kids with social media and, like, they are learning discernment, and they're like, "Nah, you've got no idea how we use this, and you've got no idea how we are going to let it expand our creativity." I recently did a Wayfinders pilot or experiment with a group of young adults who are digital entrepreneurs,
Nice.
and the way, like, we still did. They went out. They were all across the globe. They still went out and they did the walks. We were integrating local, like them going out locally into their environments and then coming back and capturing it through digital tools.
Yeah.
I could never imagine the creativity that they came up with, like in their
Wow.
digital motifs and in the way that they kind of use the different AI tools in it. And it was this creativity, and it goes back to that thing of like, we are nature. So everything, including social media, including the technology we've created, including AI, is not separate. It's not a problem to be solved.
Mm.
Doesn't mean we don't need policy. Not saying
Right.
that.
Right.
But it's not a problem to be solved. It's something that is we're interacting with, and that we are now interdependent with, and it's something to move with. And
Yeah.
I think the young generation are going to come up with far more, having never been separate from it. It's just like another tool. So and I think what part of the issue that we're kind of addressing is balance.
Hmm.
So way I see it as an interconnected web is in the birthing of this new technology, the way that we've asked students to use their time in the construct of school, is maybe, changing.
Yeah.
I recently saw an article. It was from our research partner, Amy McDonald at the University of Utah, who's doing a lot of research with us about the power of nature. And it was about a school that instead of detention, when kids were misbehaving, ADHD, not paying attention, was instead
Yeah.
of detention, they sent them out on walks.
Oh, lovely.
So maybe that changing of thinking of like, okay, this means that we need to, with the way that we are working, we just need to change the structures of how we're thinking about things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fascinating. And I love that. I love that you're going to highlight generational wisdom across the board between like the from the old to the young. I think that's beautiful. That's awesome. And then I'd love to hear more. So you touched on the fundraising a bit. You mentioned so I love the one where it's like a dedicating of an hour of your wage. So basically what that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like if you make 25 an hour, just donating 1 hour of your work per month. Like so
Yeah, so
one
you're
a
donating
$25.
$25 a
I
month.
love
And
that.
the thing I love about it is because I've always the way that it says, yes, I'm participating in this. And at the
Yeah.
moment, we do need money and resources to be able
Yeah.
to see this. So it is like a primary need at the moment. So it contributes in that way, but it's saying value this. I value the reseeding of this in our communities. And so often, you think about, if you're getting paid an hour's wage, what you would normally spend it on,
Yeah.
what that means that you're valuing. And the idea is that you then become part of a community. The other thing I love about it is it says what we give is relative.
Yeah.
It's not, there's not a hierarchy in that, it's relative. So, yeah, I really like that. And I really like the idea of waypoints.
Yeah.
The idea that we're all like, there's a wayfinders, but that we're all waypoints in this journey and that we're all part of it. So yeah, I really like that. We've also got a charity auction coming up, particularly focused on our Alaska journey, which is all about trips. So it's auctioning off trips in the different places that we're a part. So all of the
Oh,
places
nice.
yeah, all of the places, I mean, oh gosh, this is the other part I love about my job. All of the places that we are doing seeding these programs, we are accessing the wildest places in that community. So in
Mm.
Minnesota, we're accessing the boundary waters. So people who don't know the boundary waters, it's an area that borders the US and Canada, and they're waters in which there are no motorized boats.
Wow.
So the quiet and the getting away from things is at another level. In my local place here in California, we're going into the Sespe Wilderness, which is one of the largest wilderness areas in California.
Nice.
In Alaska, we're going up to the tip of the Kachemak Bay,
Oh,
which is like, where, everything else is drowned out. So
wow.
it's kind of cool. So we're offering all these trips to those places, and they're not, I did a donor's trip to Alaska last year. And one of the things I really recognized is that, obviously these donors trips and this charity auction is for people who have some more money to spend.
Yeah.
Um, but after I did a donors trip, we took a family out to the tip of the Kachemak Bay, and I really saw that, what they experienced was that money can buy you some things,
Mm,
but actually it can't buy you what this gave. You know,
mm,
it was the deep relationships that our host there, Ots Kilcher, had with the community. It was them
mm,
coming out to help. It was in the way that the eagles circled us and then took us to a river that had leaping salmon in it.
oh,
It was the way that in taking time out to sit with each other as a family, that
mm,
they had conversations that they needed to have but wouldn't have otherwise, and the relationships were deepened. And all of those things, like money plays a part. Money says, in our lives, this is what we value, and this is where we're going to put those resources, our
mm,
heart and hours, an hour of our time through which we've earned this money. I value this thing and I'm going to put it there. So it's really important. But money can't buy us the most important things in life, which is our relationships, the care of this earth and what every day it gives us and its beauty and the wonder that we
mm,
experience in life. And it can't buy that animating spirit that we
mm.
feel and that motivates us to action.
That is such a wonderful way to approach anything with your resources, right? That's where you're putting your energy. That's where you're putting your support, your time. That's lovely. And for everyone listening, we will certainly have links to both the auction and to the waypoint, which I love that idea. Again, just love that. And we will have those from Miriam as well. Those are launching very soon. Starting and the charity auction is Veterans Day to Giving Tuesday. Is that correct on the dates? Okay,
Yeah. We're,
excellent.
start,
So exciting.
we're starting Veterans Day because so many of the volunteers that we have in our organization, I'd say about 85% of them are veterans, and our board is almost all veterans.
That's
So
amazing.
they're people who've come through the programs that we do and who are really dedicated to giving back in civilian life.
I love that. I love that so much. So that we will be posting that for anyone who wants to contribute and put their resources there, which I think is an amazing, amazing thing. And we'll also be, of course, posting more about how they can find you, Miriam, and support OpenCircle and Wayfinders. And I do have a really cool point though. I want to shout you out for a second, Miriam, because behind this, like this incredible thing she's created, everybody, she has been so forthcoming too in about like the entrepreneurial journey behind it all. And so even as she's approaching this fundraising campaign, and we didn't even talk much about like you hit on the, the company that you had before and you sold it and it was, any outsider would say great success, yada yada. So you've had all the success in business, you've had companies that are just like thriving and doing great work. And as you're approaching this new venture, you still mentioned, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to like, I'm going for it and I'm doing it. And it was
Oh,
so
yeah.
inspiring to me.
I'm
And
so on a limb here. I'm so on a limb. I'm like, okay. And as an entrepreneur, I'm like, to be totally frank, when I started this and I said, this is what I'm doing, the people around me like, okay. And they kind of, I can feel them waiting and I'm like, yep, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm like doing this dance with
Mhm.
the energy of the spirit. And you're part of it.
I love
Like our
this.
conversation, it's like I'm opening up. I'm in that kind of birthing phase. So I'm opening up and I'm playing with it and I'm just seeing where it takes me. I'm in a river. It's like I'm in this river, but I don't know. I know the principles though. And
Yeah.
I'm very clear I've never been clearer on who I am and
Mm,
the part I have to play, but how that interacts with the environment, with you, and with
mm.
everything around me, I don't know where it will take me. But I trust it. And so, an invitation to anyone who is listening, if you have an idea or if this inspires you, or if you're interested, please reach out because I'd love to talk. And if you have an idea and it fits in with ours, that's what this journey is about. It's about collaboration.
I love that. It's the most inspiring thing for me to hear. It just makes me feel so good hearing you do that. And I love that you're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm going. I'm doing it anyway. I don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. I think some of us that are newer in the entrepreneurial journey are like, oh, they know exactly how to do everything. They've already done it before. That's why they're so successful and they can just keep, they know exactly what they're doing. They have the crystal ball. And you're like, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm going for it. And I just love it. So I appreciate that. I really wanted to thank you for saying that. And I hope it inspires a lot of people as well. And I kind of want to turn this into a two-parter at some point because I still have a million questions for you, but I know we're coming up on time on this one. So, Miriam, I hope you would be down to do a part two with me. It's
I am so open to
amazing.
that. If the pain of my entrepreneurial journey can serve anyone, we can have a whole episode about mistakes I've made.
Can't we all? Can't we all? That's part of my thing. I'm like, I love sharing where I've learned stuff, and like lots of those lessons can be painful, they could be fun, but sharing those. So I just appreciate that, and I have so much more I would love to pick your brain about. So probably everybody listening, this is just part one, Miriam. But let's show her some love and show her new venture, her new animated spirit's been guiding her, and let's like go check it out, support her. And then Miriam, outside of that too, so we'll put those links, but where else can people who want to follow along with you, follow along with your journey, support, maybe get involved as well? Where can they find you? Do you have Instagram, LinkedIn?
We are OpenCircle. At We Are OpenCircle is our Instagram link. We're on all the channels. Not TikTok, actually. TikTok. Yeah, I know. My kids are like barred me from it. They're like, hey, hang on TikTok.
You're not allowed, Mom. You are
You're
not allowed.
Yeah. But we're on all the, but we are OpenCircle, and we are opencircle.com. We are opencircle.org are our websites. So that's, and there's a reason for that. OpenCircle, but we are OpenCircle. This is a community movement, and we have always been that, which is why we chose that as our URL 10 years ago, because we've always seen this as something that we're doing with others. And so that's what we're about. So yeah, join in the movement.
I love it. I love it. And so everybody, you will get all those links. Check it out. Follow along. And if you can get in on this fundraiser, if you hear this during this time, go for it. Jump to those links as well and contribute to the awesome work that Miriam's doing. But thank you, Miriam, for joining. I appreciate it. And we'll see you back for a part two. Oh, my fellow entrepreneurs, I hope you loved this conversation as much as I did. Miriam, thank you so much for coming and dropping such great wisdom for all of us. There were just tons of amazing golden pieces of advice in there. Miriam's reminder to lead with your spark and then to pause when everything in you wants to push. It really hit home for me, and I'm sure it did for a lot of you as well. If you want to learn more about OpenCircle or Wayfinders, check out the links in the show notes and see how you can support Miriam's awesome work. And if this episode sparked something for you, hit subscribe, leave a quick review, or share this with another entrepreneur who would love it too. And until next time, keep creating, keep listening, and keep following that spark.